Okay, we need to look at how we connect PHP to a database. So here I have some code. Notice I've set up a couple of variables. The first thing we ever need to do to a database is we need to connect to it. Now I'm using what's called the mysqli or improved functions to connect to a database. There do exist similar functions that are not using this improved interface. They omit the I. But for all subsequent versions of PHP, we should be using this function. So mysqli connect connects to the database. We provide the username, the host we're connecting to. There's the host. We provide the username we're connecting as, the password, and then the database on that server we want to connect to. So in our CIT program, your username and the database you're going to connect to are the same thing. Once we are on the database and connected to it, we need to execute a query. So SQL, here is some SQL syntax. Once again, you can view some slides to see just a quick review of SQL. But the select statement will allow us to retrieve all fields from the instructor table, all fields and all rows. So I've just stored it as a variable and there's a string. Now this next piece of syntax, mysqli query, is what goes to this database connection and actually executes that query on the server. Executes it, and whatever is returned is stored in this variable called result. So what I can do, just to take a look at what result is in it, I'll just use printr and we'll take a look. And let's go ahead and look at that. So over here, the result right now looks like this. It's an object. If you remember object-oriented programming, this is an instance of a class. Basically it says there's 3 fields in this table. There are 5 rows. And if you don't know when we're talking about fields and rows, you want to go refresh your database knowledge. Okay, so back here, if I want to cycle through each of those items, each of those rows in the result set, I have to actually use this special mysqli function, which will fetch the row out of the result and it will store it in a row. Notice I have it in a loop so that I can loop through each one of those result rows. And then very simply, I am just, row should consist of an array, and so I'm just printing out the contents of the array, and that's it. This stuff I'm doing on another page. So as you look then back here, as I refresh this, notice then it's cycling through each item and printing out the contents of the array. And if you go look at my MySQL table, this one, you can see that instructor table, maybe, right there. You can see that it has 3 fields, first name, last name, and instructor ID. And in fact, here, that's what I'm getting, first name, last name, instructor ID. Now, if we want to take one step beyond that, and here's the exact same thing, except instead of, in my while loop, instead of just doing a printr, I'll go ahead and try to stick this in an HTML table. So before I go in the loop, I open my table. After the loop, I close my table. But in the loop, this is what I'll do. I'll start off with a tr tag. Remember, row is an array. So I'll loop through each item in the array, and I will print out the value of that particular item in our table tag. So as I switch back over here now, and we're going to look at the mysqli test 2, there's the results of sticking them in a table. So it was fairly easy to loop through and grab those values back out. And that's our first look at connecting to a database with PHP.